Fallout 1 et 2 ont clairement marqué l'histoire du RPG PC. Ils permirent entre autres aux réalistes virtuels d'échapper enfin au contexte médiéval fantastique présent dans 90% des RPG, Ultima en tête. Le jeu plaçait en effet le joueur dans un cadre post-apocalyptique justifiant l'un des autres points forts de ces jeux, leur scénario adulte.
Our American way of life, isn't it grand? Peace, freedom, and bacon and eggs. Seems perfect. But what if it's not? Friends, your future may not be as secure as you think. Where will you be when the atomic bombs fall? I love those deer.
Ce remake 3D échouant entre les mains d'un autre studio de développement avait donc de quoi faire peur aux plus naïfs des fans, même si ce studio n'a rien d'un novice en matière de RPG. Quelques membres de Bethesda ont donc fait le déplacement jusqu'à Paris pour présenter leur nouveau bébé, dont Pete Hines. Ce dernier cumule 9 années chez Bethesda où il officie en particulier sur Morrowind, Oblivion et bien sûr Fallout 3.
There was a lot of stuff about Fallout that made it unique and special. For me it was, first and foremost, it was about the setting, this great world that they created that was not just post-apocalyptic, but it had this twist and this edge to it and this idea of this 50s Tomorrowland that gets blown up and then set in that world is this dark humor and these great characters and story and dialogue and all that stuff. It was a very violent game for its time. It was just a lot of things that went into it that were done just right, just so, that made it really compelling. And that's really what made us love it and want to pick it up and do something with it. But too much is falling in my... I think bringing it to 3D actually, it definitely has its pros and cons. From one standpoint, you're changing inherently how the game is presented to the player from the first two, and so some people are going to have an issue with that. But I think what it allows you to do is more than any of the previous games. You can really get up close in this environment, in this world that you've created, where you're not just viewing it all from way up high. When you go in the vault, you're really in the vault. When you grow up, it's all around you, as opposed to kind of looking down on it. Or when a super mutant runs up to you, or a Deathclaw runs up to you, he's right there in your face. He's this gigantic creature. It does add another sense of realism and immersion. I think more than anything, we have enjoyed that aspect of it, that bringing this world to life.
Si un détail a immédiatement fait tiquer les fans des précédents Fallout, c'est bien la présence de séquences de tir en temps réel, faisant a priori ressembler Fallout 3 à un banal FPS.
So the combination of real-time and turn-based, we did want to have it be as a throwback to the original Fallout, something that you had a chance to pause time. So you can play in real time just like you would any action game, any first-person shooter. The controls are the same. They're very much similar to our previous games. But you can also press a button and stop time and take a look at any enemies that are around. And you can use action points to queue up moves to target different enemies and different body parts. And then you press a button and we play it all back to you using this camera system that we have, where we show you different angles of the combat to kind of have some fun with it and make it different, instead of seeing it the same way every time. So using real time in this pause mode, VATS, it does allow the player to mix up and decide how much of the game they want to play in real time and how much they want to use VATS, and your action points will come back slowly over time, so you have to make some choices about, you go into VATS mode and you use it, and then you have to wait a little bit before you can go in again, and I think it's a nice balance. It is based off of the Oblivion engine. We obviously had to code and do a lot of stuff specific for Fallout in terms of, we're doing twice as much on the screen as we did in Oblivion, and it's running faster than it did in Oblivion. So obviously we spent a lot of time optimizing to run better on all these platforms and to do a lot of new things. Weapons combat with guns is very different than weapon combat with swords and shields and that kind of thing. So it was a combination of taking some of the things that we had in Oblivion and building on it, adding some brand new things, you know, and letting Fallout be its own game. So it's a mix of, but everything has been tweaked or modified on some level for Fallout for sure.
I'll do whatever you want. Just please, for God's sake, stop with the nagging. Ah, look at this. New blood. Tell me, boy, you ever hear of the Enclave?
We love this idea from the original Fallout of you lived your whole life in the vault and then you get sent out into the wasteland. And so we said, well, what would that be like for the player? Let's let them go up in the vault and have that be the only thing that they know. So you start the game and you see yourself being born. And your dad looks over the nurse's shoulder and says, well, is it a boy or a girl? And that's where you get to pick whether you're a boy or a girl. So it kind of nicely flows with watching yourself grow up and making choices as you grow up. You get to pick what you look like. You get to pick, you know, what kind of things you want to be good at in terms of your abilities, your specials. Are you going to be particularly strong? Are you going to be smart? Are you going to be, you know, have high endurance, whatever it is? Your skills, what kind of skills you want to be better at. And so each period of your life you're flashing through, you're making some of these choices. When you're 1, when you're 10, when you're 16, and then when you're 19 and you wake up and your dad, who has been there for you at every point that you flash through, is suddenly gone. He's left the vault. And that's your jumping off point for leaving the vault as well. Why did my dad leave me behind? What was so important? He had to, you know, had to go and leave his only kid behind. And that's really when you head out into the wasteland. And then from there, it's up to you what you want to do with this character you've created.
Les doutes quant à la filiation Fallout 3 restent présents, mais on peut tout de même espérer que l'expérience de Bethesda donnera naissance à un 3e épisode marquant, sinon fidèle.